Hi guys, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. In today's video we are going to be trimming this tank. So we've got a ADA 45P here and it's quite heavily planted with stem plants, and as you can see it's got a little bit wild. So today we're going to be showing you step by step how we trim each plant in this aquarium. So there's quite a few different types of plants in here. So we've obviously got a carpeting plant, we've got epiphytes, we've got short sort of like foreground stems, and then we've got big rotalas in the background. So we're going to be using a few different tools to tackle this. So we've got the spring scissors from ADA, we've got the wave scissors from ADA, and we've also got a couple more tools that we might need to use as well. But we're going to start in the foreground and work backwards, so hopefully you can see how each layer is cut. And there's a few different trimming techniques that we use as well. That can differ depending on the tank or the plant, but we're going to show you a few techniques that we use today for these types of stems in here. So we're going to start with the foreground, which is actually HC Cuba, and we like to keep that trimmed quite low because if it starts getting too tall it can actually uproot itself. So we're going to trim that back nice and low and then we'll work back from there. Chose the spring scissors for this more just because it is quite a tight space. It is a small tank and it is quite a small foreground area. But also got to be careful not to get the shrimp. So this can obviously be quite time consuming, but it is because it is a small tank and it's quite a small tricky area, so there's not a lot of room to work. Obviously in a larger tank you could use the wave scissors and it would be a little bit of a quicker process, but it is a little bit tricky in a small tank, so you've just got to be patient with it. But I think we're nearly there. Okay, so we've trimmed the carpet, we've given that a little tidy up and that all seems to look okay. You'll sometimes find if you trim a little bit too low that you'll get sort of a little yellow patch, but that will eventually just grow over itself and eventually start looking healthy again. It's just where the light's not being able to get to the lower part of the plant. So next we're going to move on to the Staurogyne repens, and as you can see, that's got a little bit tall in this tank and it's also crept forward a bit as well. Next we'll tidy that up, and again for that I'm going to use the ADA wave scissor and try and give it a bit of shape and get it sort of on a gradient towards the back of the tank, starting smaller at the front and working higher. You can actually use the scissors backwards or like upside down, and that'll help you give more of a curve on the stem and help you get a nicer shape. So because this is quite a mature tank and that Staurogyne has been left to grow for quite a while, you can see that there's just a lot of stem here and that does look quite like rough, but it's not a problem because the taller parts of the plant that we've trimmed, we'll just replant them in there and try and hide this, and hopefully the light will start getting to some of these stems because they're still quite healthy and they'll hopefully start putting out new leaves and it'll start to look a little bit more normal again. But this is quite common and it quite can happen, especially with plants like Staurogyne. They can get a little bit leggy. We'll leave this front bit here.
So what is this method called?
this at the minute, it's kind of a bit of a mix of both, because we are replanting the tops, but you can also do what's called topping, which is where when you've cut stem plants, you kind of push the healthy tops back into the plant mass. So you're not strictly planting it into the soil, because the plant will just eventually send roots down and find its way back to the soil and back to the nutrients anyway. With this, some of these little Staurogyne cuttings are going straight into the soil, whereas some of them I'm just kind of wedging into this little stem mass here, because it seems to be gripping onto them quite well. It might not look amazing at first, but in a couple of weeks it should hopefully kind of go back to how it was, but just in a bit of a neater formation. We are obviously doing a big trim on this tank, and normally we'd sort of do like little trims or focus on one section at a time. But if you are going to do like a massive trim back on a tank, it's a good thing to use a product called Secum Advance, because it's a phytohormone, so it does help the roots establish again. So it works really well after you've trimmed a tank, especially done quite a heavy trim, or if you're planting up a new tank. And it's also sometimes recommended to just dial back a little bit on your fertiliser. Obviously, if you've got a mature tank and you've heavily trimmed it, it's not going to be using as many nutrients. Same with lighting, you can dial back your lighting if you've done a really heavy trim on the tank. It's different per tank, and it's different depending on what stems you're using, depending on how fast growing they are. But they are things to bear in mind when you are doing a big heavy trimming session on your tank.
The good old shrimp net for getting all the little leaves, eh?
Yeah, it's the perfect size for a little tank. Okay, next we are going to go on to the epiphytes. This tank has things like buce needleleaf, thea, and it's also got a variegated buce species in there as well. And whilst we don't really trim buce all that often, or epiphytes, you can trim off or pinch off any damaged leaves or any leaves that have like any algae on them and things like that. You can trim them like if you wanted to give them a proper trim, if you really did want to thin them out, you can trim them down at the rhizome and you can actually replant that elsewhere in the tank. But we're not going to be doing that today, because we quite like the mass and the shape that these epiphytes are giving the tank. But we are going to remove some leaves that don't look healthy, and you can either do that just literally by pinching them off as far down as the base of the plant as possible, or you can use some scissors to just trim them off as well. So it won't be a heavy thin out on these, it'll just be whatever doesn't look nice. See here on the edges of these leaves, there is a little bit of BBA. That can be quite a common thing, especially on slow growing plants like epiphytes, Bucephalandra, Anubias and things like that. It's generally caused by flow, and they probably are receiving some quite strong flow because they are at the front of the tank and that's where the outflow is. But it's nothing that we can't fix just by trimming off the leaves. So as you can see, I've chopped that one off, but you can also just pinch it with your nail. Just make sure you do it right at the base so that the plant doesn't think that it needs to repair the leaf, it just knows that the leaf's gone. So I'm actually trimming away some of these longer bits of the buce needleleaf because they are just a little bit long. So you can see I'm just trimming like the main stem as close to the rhizome as possible.
Yeah, because BBA does normally occur in like
high
flow areas, yeah, or lack of CO2, because it's just in that spot, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an algae that like definitely everyone's got a different opinion on, but like seeing the tanks in here, we do tend to find that wherever there is a sort of really heavy direct flow, it does gather there. It can be attributed to like CO2 and like heavy CO2 misting. I would say a big majority of the time it is related to flow. Okay, so that's like the midground of the tank done. What we're going to do next is something a little bit different. So this right here is Rotala wallichii, and we do tend to find that this plant responds better to a different way of trimming. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove all of the stems of this plant, which might be a little bit shocking, but if you wait till the end, you'll see the reason why that we do that. So we're going to remove the wallichii for now. We're going to put that to one side and just make sure that it stays like wet so that it doesn't dry out. And then we're going to move on to the background stems, which is Rotala blood red and Ludwigia palustris green. And we're just going to trim them as normal. But first, we'll just remove these. And to do that, just very, very gently reach down to as close as you can to the substrate level. And just gently pull. It will release some aqua soil and it might turn your water a little bit murky, but if you do it really gently, it might not be too bad. And if this is something that you're kind of doing every couple of weeks with your plant, it won't root too strongly, so it will make it a little bit easier to pull out. So we will be doing a big water change after this anyway, so any of the sort of detritus and dirt that gets into the water column will be removed.
So the plan with this one is to like curve round the buce. It'll look really small at first, won't it?
Yeah, you just have to give it a few weeks and you'll start seeing it again. But you can see it's got a little bit leggy, or a lot leggy. But that is what happens when you've got a plant with quite dense leaves. It does block out a lot of the light from the bottom.
And normally we would be trimming this every couple of weeks probably, but we have left it about a month just so there's like a noticeable difference for everyone in this video.
Yeah.
It's the same techniques, it's just when we're doing it after a couple of weeks it's harder to see.
Yeah.
But exactly the same, just everything's a bit longer.
Yeah. This will look a little bit more shocking and a bit more of a harsher trim, but it's because there was more plant mass to begin with.
Yeah. It's all super healthy still though, if you look at that.
Oh, it's, yeah, very healthy.
Which is what we normally keep anyways.
Yeah. We'll just literally grab this out and go through like stem by stem and pick out the nice healthy tops to replant.
You can already see the shape coming together with the two little islands.
Yeah, we kind of lost that a little bit.
Yeah. And the bridge through the middle.
And the bridge, yeah.
Is it a bridge? Maybe? Would you say it's the same as Super Red Ludwigia? So like Ludwigia palustris red? Because it looks the same.
Yeah. I can't tell if the leaf shape is maybe a smidge smaller, but...
Yeah, ever so slightly.
Yeah.
It's really nice. I'd like to do both of them together.
Yeah, it's got definitely like the same, a bit chaotic growth, but...
And it still sends these like side shoots out of the...
Yeah,
you can see it on there. Yeah.
Right, next we'll just trim the blood red. Just get rid of some of them stems.
Looks like a snow globe, Rachel. Doesn't it?
Yeah. It looks a bit brutal, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, look pretty though, after.
trimming's a bit scary, especially when you've got to do a massive one, because you think you're ruining your tank, but it's one of them things where it does pay off.
So you're going quite far down there.
Yeah, we've got quite a lot of like long, healthy tops. So even though it seems like we're going far down, we've still got a good 10-15 centimetres of healthy plant here that when we replant, you'll be able to see.
There's a lot of stem left.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's also really healthy.
What's your favourite plant in this tank, Rach?
I do really like the blood. I do like that Tanina fluivitalis.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah.
Bit different.
Yeah. Don't know, I like that. I do like them all. I think it's nicely planted. But the blood red, I suppose, is a bit of a showstopper. It's the plant where like anyone who comes into the gallery, they're always like, oh, what's that?
Do you know what I've just noticed? I completely forgot it was in there.
Is it Nessia Golden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the blood red grows so quick it just disappears, doesn't it?
Yeah. And again, on the other side, take...
Crikey. Do you enjoy trimming plants? Or do you hate it?
Well, honestly...
Like, look at me. Honestly.
No.
Oh, I quite like it.
It's like, I'm proper stuttering there. I don't mind it, but doing it, I don't find it calming or like...
But you find it satisfying afterwards. I find it really
satisfying afterwards. Like, I think it's quite scary, and I can totally understand anyone who's sort of like new to aquascaping or like maybe just getting into stems, because stems are obviously a lot more demanding. They require more maintenance. They can sometimes require more sort of like technology in the way of like highlighting and CO2. Don't get me wrong, there's easy stems as well, but a lot of the sort of more ornamental type stems or the red stems, they do require a lot more. So it can seem a bit scary just completely butchering them back, because you think,
I know what you mean.
Like, oh, is it going to grow back? But they do. It's what plants do. So it seems scary, but it's just patience, which I feel like we don't always have.
I do know what you mean. You almost feel a bit bad, like you're ruining a perfectly good-looking tank.
Yeah.
But then if you left it too long,
it ends up like this.
Yeah, or worse. Like, that's not even bad, really, is it? It's like,
no,
quite normal still, but
yeah.
If you leave it so long, you end up with like all dead plant underneath.
Yeah, and like how we've just pulled out a load of healthy tops, like that.
Yeah,
that's good. That's what you want. Yeah. But if you trimmed that back and found out that all you were pulling out was not very healthy
dead
tops,
leaves, yeah,
then you haven't got anything nice to replant back in the tank. So it's like a fine balance. But I do think one thing that you tend to find with a tank that's like heavily planted with stems is that you do have like a peak week.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Where like it looks lovely.
The Instagram week
where you start doing all the posts of it, and then like the week after that it takes off and you're like, oh, it needs
You've catfished people.
Yeah.
What I was meaning earlier was like, if you look here, this blood red here, it's still red all the way through. Like, there's no dead leaves on it, so that is still healthy.
Yeah.
Whereas like in a couple of weeks it might have overshadowed itself and deteriorated quite quickly.
Yeah.
Which is where you shouldn't be scared to go for it.
Yeah, just...
Although I do feel quite sad looking at it now.
Yeah.
But it'll be worse in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I feel like when I first started here and you were like showing me trimming plants, I was always like really scared, and I'd only cut like 2 cents. You're really brutal.
I am quite brutal.
Yeah.
Maybe too brutal, to be fair.
Yeah.
I feel like you've got a nice healthy balance. No,
It's
there's
different. Sorry, it's different trimming for a gallery. Obviously, we want
it is.
people to come in and it be an instant impact and it look nice
Yeah.
straight away for people. So we do have a slightly different approach to trimming, whereas this is probably more like something you would do at home because you're just at home. You can watch it grow in and it's rewarding in that way. Whereas if we've got a gallery and everybody walked into like naked tanks.
Yeah, and this is what I would do at home as well. That's why I thought, well, we'd best leave it about 4 weeks, because realistically, who's going to trim and make it look perfect every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Some people will, but not everyone's going to, are they?
Yeah.
Like, most people would leave it a good month, enjoy it, and then trim it like this. Whereas we want it to look like gallery ready all the time, I suppose.
Yeah, so we generally would do smaller, less brutal trims.
Sometimes we have to, though.
Well, yeah, like it does happen.
But we would never do more than out of all of these, and all the lights are off now, there's a lot of tanks there. We would never do like 2 or 3 at a time. We'd only ever butch one like this.
Yeah.
Like once, like 1 at a time. And then everything else looks good, so it's obvious what we've done.
Yeah.
So what we're doing here?
Just organising my stems. Just organising the stems, just making sure that I'm getting healthy ones and just putting them in like a size order just to make it easier when planting, because I can keep the taller ones to the sides and the back and the shorter ones like closer to the front, and then it'll just give like a bit more shape to the tank, and hopefully they'll kind of grow in that shape as well. But you tend to find that, like, especially with stem plants like the Rotalas and even this, like they'll start, like that's one stem, but it's like sent out.
That is one stem, isn't it?
Yeah, and they send out like multiple like growth points from a node or from like where the aerial roots are.
Quite an old tank though, isn't it? So that's been trimmed God knows how many times.
Yeah.
How old is it? Would you say about 1.5 years?
Yeah.
Coming up 2 years even?
Yeah.
1.5 years, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But still quite a while for like a quite stem heavy tank, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's kept going really well. But I think sometimes what you have got to do with a tank that is stem heavy is to do that big reset, is to just pull everything out every now and again and replant all the healthy stuff. And I think that's probably in part why that's lasted as long as it has, because every now and again we do a bit of a big reset on it, so to speak, where we pull certain...
Pretty much like this, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, as you can see, she's separated all the healthy ones. These are all the ones to replant. You've got little ones for the front, mid ones and big ones.
Mid ones and big ones.
So you can get that nice shape back again, can't you?
Yeah. If the bottoms of them are just very leggy and there's nothing on them, you can just pull that off, so you are starting from like a healthy stem. Like if that just had no leaves on it or anything and it looked a bit unhealthy, you'd just pinch it off and start from where it's healthy.
Yeah, because it can produce roots again, can't it?
Yeah, pretty quickly as well. Then again, UC Cam Advance, it definitely helps promote root growth after a big trim.
So we're going in with blood red.
Yep. I've got the taller bunches first for the sides. And we'll go down to the slightly shorter ones, and that'll give a more like curved appearance. Tend to just plant like 1 or 2 stems at a time. I don't do like thick bunches. Just do them separately.
Yeah, same, because I feel like if you do a thick bunch, it kind of compacts up a little bit too much, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it pulls itself out.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Sometimes it does pull itself out. I mean, it's not a problem. Like the roots will find the way down, but that's when you start getting like a lot of aerial roots and a lot of like legginess on the stem. So aerial roots, if you don't like the look of them, you can just pull them off the stem. It wouldn't damage it or anything.
We can see a bit of colour coming back in there now.
Good.
Do you know what? I totally forgot there was a little nano heater at the back.
Yeah, because it was always covered.
Yeah. Another reason why we trim quite often is to hide stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because this is on a posh superjet filter. ADA superjet filter. Which is really pretty, but doesn't have a built-in heater. You can put inline heaters on, but obviously this is a glass stand, so it would look a bit unsightly. Whereas something like the ADA cabinets over there wouldn't matter. You could put an inline heater on. But yeah, we're trying to keep it minimal, and weirdly, the best way to keep it looking nice was to actually put a heater inside of the tank because the stems cover it so quick. Whereas under here, you would see it all the time.
It's actually amazing how many stems we've got.
You wouldn't believe they all fit in there, would you?
No. I mean, it's cosy, but that's probably what makes it look so impactful. To do this, I'm just using the long, thin tweezers from ADA.
They're the large or the XL?
I think they might be the large, I think.
Do you find having a good quality tool like the ADA tweezer makes a difference?
Honestly, yeah. And I think you don't realise it until you've tried one, just how much of a difference it makes.
And that's not just you saying that because you work here either, because you were a customer way before you worked here.
Yeah.
And you had your full collection of ADA tools before then.
Well,
we waited to employ you until you'd bought all
everything. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I did buy. It's not saying that like cheap or like other brands or whatever like
no,
as good. Like they are, but
no, and they're good enough if you want to start off and they'll last you time. It's just
yeah.
I mean, them ones you're using there, they're my tweezers I've had for God knows how many years.
Yeah. But they feel nice. They have like so many different types as well, so there's always like the right tool for the job that you're doing. It's not just like one size tweezer fits all, because a thick tipped tweezer, this would be harder, because I know for a fact when I'm pushing these stems in, if I was using a thicker tweezer, as soon as I pushed one in, another one would push up.
Yeah.
Because it's like pushing against the soil, whereas these are like really thin and they just
kind of slide in between everything.
Yeah. And it does make them a lot easier to plant with.
Let's have a look at them.
So you can see that bit's like really thin, but they do thicker ones as well. And you'd use them for things like crypts or echinodoros or something with like a really big, bulky like rootstock.
Yeah, whereas they would just sort of pierce into the root and get stuck.
Yeah.
I've had that before.
Yeah. And the one thing that I really love and rate about ADA tweezers is that when you are like gripping something in the stem and you've kind of got hold of it quite tight, you'll find that cheaper stuff, this bit starts touching together before that does, and it like pushes it apart again. So the stems are really like loose in the tweezer, whereas these you've got like a good grip. And no matter how tight, I mean, I wouldn't do it too tightly because you don't want to damage that, but no matter how tight you've got it, it doesn't come apart, like it doesn't force the end apart. So yeah, I do.
Do you mean like when they like cross over? Because I've had that before.
Yeah, that can happen too. It's annoying.
Not with ADA ones, but I have had it happen. Don't get me wrong, we're not saying like the other tools are bad, and they're brilliant to get you started with. It's just if you want to.
I think it's if you're a big aquascaper, you love the hobby, you're in it for the long haul, absolutely treat yourself. But if it's something that you're just getting into, you don't know if it's going to be something that you're going to stick with, then yeah, like
Yeah, it would make sense to go something deeper then, wouldn't it?
yeah. Go.
Now, I'm going to drop the C word now.
You can't. This is a family-friendly channel.
Christmas.
Oh.
So, also a good thing to ask for Christmas. Get someone else to buy them.
Yeah. Get gift vouchers.
It's a family channel. Oh, I just noticed we've moved on to a different plant. So this is Ludwigia palustris green, yeah?
Yeah, and we're planting slightly smaller length stems than the blood red, so that it kind of goes like an arch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that blood red is still quite tall, given.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can see the difference on the sides. There. Just already, like, this makes me feel happier. Does it you?
Yeah.
It's not as scary, is it, when you see it like that? You can look at this side now. And then this side. Still sad.
Right, so the last plant that we pulled out earlier, which was the Rotala wallichii, what we actually do with this, we do find it to be a somewhat sensitive plant to trimming. Don't get me wrong, you can, but it does feel like after a few trims, it doesn't seem to bounce back quite as quick. So what we like to do with this plant is to pull it out completely from the tank and then basically cut, rather than the method that we've done in there where we've cut the tops. We're actually just going to cut the bottom away, the bit that we don't want, and just leave ourselves with the healthy tops and just replant them that way. Whereas in there, yes, we have topped it with the healthy stems, but we've also left the old stems in the bottom of the tank for them to sort of grow as well. Whereas with this, we're not doing that. We're purely just putting the tops back in the tank and then discarding this bit. Whereas, as I said before, we have left most of that bit in the tank because with the Rotala blood red and with the Ludwigia palustris green, those bits will just basically put out 2 new nodes and create like a bushy background effect. But we're not going to do that with these because we do find that we have better results doing that this way, just purely keeping this healthy bit. I think that's probably about the right size. So we'll put these in and then we'll water change.
I'm always so busy looking at the little shrimp in here. I forget about the little fish.
Yeah.
They're really nice as well, little strawberry raspberries.
Yeah, and they've coloured up really nice. I mean, they're probably not as coloured now because they're probably like, what's going on? But like when it's not a trimming session, they coloured up like so nicely. Like you think that chilies are normally like the redder sort of small raspberry, but these were really red, aren't they?
Bright pink, aren't
They're
they?
almost orange, actually.
Yeah. Almost strawberry coloured, could you say?
No.
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 Okay.
I don't think that's why they got that name.
Oh. I think they're the smallest raspberry as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they are.
Even smaller than chilies.
Yeah. Although they've quite little chunks in here, I think.
Yeah, they're quite chunky, aren't they? Not very long, though.
No. But the shrimp have definitely taken over this tank.
Yeah.
They're breeding like crazy. How many did we even start with?
Oh, about 12, I think.
There's definitely 1,200.
1,200.
Maybe even more.
They're all just starting to disappear back into the plants now, but sometimes when you put food in, they're just
Beetroot
everywhere,
burst.
aren't they? Beetroot burst, yeah, they love that stuff, don't they?
Yeah.
We should give them some there.
As a treat.
Yeah.
For being good.
Well done, shrimps, for being so good.
Yeah. I think it's now...
Are we done?
Yeah, I think it's now just onto a normal maintenance session. So glass clean, scrub wood, glass clean, as in intake outlet. What are they called? Intake outlet.
Yeah.
And a nice big water change. So that's it for the maintenance on this tank. So as you can see, we've trimmed everything in the tank and we've given it a nice big water change as well. And then going forward for the next 7 days, we'll just be dosing Flourish Advance and probably no other fertiliser. This, as we mentioned earlier in the video, is a natural phytohormone, and basically that just gives the plant nutrients and minerals that are specifically for root development and leaf development as well. We will keep an eye out for things like algae just because it has had such a big trim, although I don't think that will be an issue on this tank just with it being quite mature and it's sort of over a year old, but we will just keep an eye out for that as well. We will show you what this tank actually looks like and how it's bounced back from having such a big maintenance session on it. We really hope you enjoyed this video and we hope you learnt something. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did, and we will see you on the next one.